Hello everyone!
Today our group is going to talk about GDP, and I hope you guys have a better understanding about GDP after watching our video.
Oh, the movie is so boring!
Oh, turn on the television. Okay.
Good morning everyone, this is Breaking News. I'm your host here, Kambaser. We have received a report of a rising of Singapore's GDP in 2017. The economy expanded to 3.6%, an improvement of 2.4% growth in 2016. Nominal GDP increased to $447.3 billion in 2017 as compared to $427.9 billion in 2016. Let's have a look at the graph.
Hey guys, he mentioned GDP in his news. Do you know what's GDP? Okay, I'll explain what's GDP. Gross domestic product is defined as the total market value of all final goods and services within a country in a given period of time. It includes private and public consumption, public and private investment, and all the import and export in a country. And GDP is the most commonly used measurement of an economy activity and serves as a good indicator to track the economic health of a country. So what is GDP per capita? GDP per capita is a measure of a country's economic output that accounts for its number of people. It divides the country's GDP to all the population, and that makes the best measurement of a country's standard of living. And it tells you how prosperous a country feels to each of its citizens. In this example, we can see that China has the most GDP in the world. However, China ranked 108 in GDP per capita. It is caused by too much population in the country. Liechtenstein ranked 179 in GDP, but it ranked first in the GDP per capita. This is caused by less population in the country.
Hello everyone, today I will explain what should be counted in GDP, what should be not. First, GDP count only final goods but not intermediate goods. Second, GDP count only new domestic goods. The second-hand transaction and non-productive financial transaction are not counted. I think you guys want to learn more. Let's look at this sample.
First, what is final goods and intermediate goods? The final goods are finished products produced for the ultimate users. Example, every time a finished good is sold, we bring up the price. At the end of the year, we bring up the total, that's the GDP. The intermediate goods are used as inputs for the production of final goods. Let's imagine, a chief buys eggs, butter, flour. We don't count this in GDP, because they are not finished goods, they are intermediate goods. After processed, will become a finished goods, a cake. How about new domestic goods, second-hand transactions, and non-productive financial transactions? The new domestic goods is produced by the country of origin. See, Americans sold the wine to England. We count only the GDP in American. That's the new domestic goods of American. The second-hand transactions are current transactions and production. Think about it. A housing corporation have sold a house to a man for 10,000. it is first transaction which included in GDP. 10 years later, the man sold the house to another for 20,000. It is second-hand transaction which excluded in GDP. The non-productive financial transactions are giving private gifts, buying, selling of shares, and transfer. For example, a man win 1 billion by lottery tickets, but he did not produce anything. In this case, it is not included in GDP. Ultimately, we can easily to think GDP count only the final product which is produced in the country of origin.
There are many ways to calculate the GDP, but expenditure approach or expenditure method is the most used by many countries. Let's see what is it and how it works.
A common way to measure GDP is to sum up total spending on all final goods and services during a period of time or within a year. C stands for consumer spending, or in the other word, is the sum of expenditures by households on all goods and services. Letter I stands for gross domestic investment, or is the sum of expenditures of all private businesses on their business. G is the government spending, or is the sum of expenditures by the government on all goods and services. Net exports. To get this number, we have to get the total income of the export and minus out the total spending on the import. This is the example of calculation the GDP. Let's have a look.
We got some information about the GDP, but will GDP be affected by inflation?
Okay, let's see.
Nominal GDP is the total value of all goods and services produced at the constant market price. It includes all the changes in market price during the constant year due to the inflation or deflation. Real GDP is the sum of all goods and services produced at a constant price. The price used in determining the GDP are based on the certain base year or the previous year. In the end, the formula of a real GDP equals nominal GDP divided by chain price index multiply 100.
This is the example table of how to get nominal GDP and the real GDP of each product. Firstly, the nominal GDP equal unit of output multiply the price. So, for example, in 2016, the unit of output is 5 and the price is $10. So the nominal GDP is $50. And we also can get in 2017 and 2018, the nominal GDP is $155 and $300. However, the real GDP is different with the nominal GDP. The real GDP equal unit of output multiply the base year price. So in example, in 2017, the unit of output is 7 and the base year price is $10. So the real GDP is $70.
Shortcoming of GDP. GDP is quantitative, it is not qualitative. GDP has missed out many things. First, GDP is exclude non-market transaction or unpaid activities. For example, hey man, this print looks so nice.
Oh, thanks, bro.
Is this one for sale?
No. I plan it for me and my family.
Second, GDP has missed out of distribution throughout each population, even the GDP is high. The next one, GDP never counted an underground market or evaded taxi business, illegal money and unreported criminal production. Fourth, economic bags. Higher GDP means greater production, which lead to greater pollution and environment damage. Later, governments have to use the money to recover the environment, fix, abandon the quality of life, such as people's happiness. For example,
Hey Howard, we got a holiday tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm so happy. Let's go somewhere. We haven't had any holiday since last month.
Ah, you are right. I think we work too much.
Yeah, if we don't work, we don't have enough money to live here. Oh, I know everything about GDP.
Hey guys, I'm so hungry.
Let's go in.
In conclusion, GDP might not be 100% accurate, but it is the most common method of telling what is happening in the economy of a country. However, GDP might not tell us the real situation and the standard of living of the population. At the end of the day, we still have to look at the happiness index, education level, and many other things. GDP does not tell anything about the distribution of an income to each population within a country.